Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're starting to get a clearer picture, I guess, of how the new version of Dungeons & Dragons is selling, or rather not selling. And it's actually coming from a surprising source. It's actually Mike Mearls, who was the lead designer on 5e, which came out in 2014. And he's basically pointing out that people are not liking the new version of the game.
No.
So we're gonna talk about that. And look, I don't think tabletop is the scene is imploding at all. I think, in fact, more and more people are going to other systems, or they're going back and playing older systems, or they're just not upgrading. Like, I don't think Hasbro realizes, like, D&D, not everybody is going to upgrade to every edition, especially with all the changes that are being made. And when you invest hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, in source books and stuff for one system, you do not want to swap it out for another system, right? It's
no, why would you? Or you found something you really like and that you enjoy, your group is playing. Why would you want to change it? Especially when they changed so many rules and things in the new one.
The D&D 5.5 or 6 or whatever the hell we're calling the new version of it is basically Windows 11. Like, they're trying to force you to update to it, you know?
It sucks.
Right. It sucks. And people are like, no, I don't want to upgrade. No, you want to upgrade. No, I don't want to upgrade. No, we're going to make your computer slow until you finally upgrade.
I'm sorry. I'm just very distracted by the picture that literally the only one white character I think is a woman, I think, with dwarfism. And then there's like a sad Pedro Pascal with reddish hair.
Sad Pedro.
Do you see sad Pedro?
Yeah, I see sad Pedro.
Does it look Pedro Pascal with red hair?
I'm looking at this. This is not like, look, I'm just side tangent. This does not look like D&D to me. This looks like artwork you would see at Epcot in the early 80s, like Living with the Land.
Yeah, kind of.
You know, something like that, like on the mural, like, look at all these diverse people from all over the world growing your food for you.
Kind of. I was like, which one's the drow?
Oh, my God. So let's...
interchangeable now.
That doesn't look anything like D&D. It just looks like a bunch of people at a race or something.
Old, when we were kids, they had the textbooks, like the little stories they'd have in the book, and they have like the little art clip pieces like that, like, you know, and they'd start using, like, you know, names like Jose and stuff to teach you about different cultures and their names and things and their early readers. That's what, and you know, and then Jose crossed the finish line and his family cheered. That's what it reminds me of.
Oh my God. How Jose won the race. Let's talk about this before we get into it any further. Please subscribe. More pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Go out to Substack, clownfishtv.substack.com. Subscribe if you're looking for updates. Check us out over there. Thank you very much. So yeah, I gotta give a hat tip to Fandom Pulse. They put this up and they've tracked down the tweets from Mike Mearls. And Mike Mearls is, I believe, the designer for the 5th edition.
Okay.
5th edition designer. Yeah, Mike Mearls posted stats regarding the current sales of the new core books. That'd be the Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster's Manual, comparing them to the last 5th edition release of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything prior to the launch. And that was one that was adding more diversity and inclusion, and I believe taking away races. I'm trying to remember. I do know there was some weirdness with that book, but that was technically the last 5e book.
Okay. Well, why don't you compare it to the sales of books before you did any of that shit too?
Right. Let's go back and see what 3.5.
But he's not going to do that because he has a vested interest in comparing it to the ones he worked on.
Right. And look, to be fair, 5e is, I believe, the best-selling version of D&D ever, but it's also been out the longest. And it was also the version that was available when there was a huge bubble with Critical Role and the lockdowns and all of that. But I can't argue. I mean, I personally don't like 5e, but I can't argue that it hasn't been successful because it's been financially successful, but people aren't upgrading. He said, so with the Monster Manual released, we can start to see where 5.5 is laying. Is that what they're calling it? 5.5. Here are the USA Today sales ranks for Tasha's compared to the core rulebooks. Interesting that the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual both only lasted a week. The Player's Handbook Holiday Bump tracks with the rate of new Amazon customer ratings, which I pointed out before that it doesn't seem like, for as popular as these books are supposed to be, they didn't have a lot of reviews.
Yes. No, they didn't. I'm sorry. I was amused by something else, but go ahead.
So he had a spreadsheet showing dismal numbers for the new editions. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything premiered number 5 on the USA Today bestseller list. And this goes along with what ICV2 was saying too, that BookScan, like they're not really, it doesn't look like it's doing that great. Let's just put it that way. I'm not saying it's a colossal failure. I don't know what their metrics are, and Wizards of the Coast is not going to release those, but they're clearly trying to push everybody over to digital anyway. But yeah, so Tasha's Cauldron was number 5 in 2020. So just a couple of years ago. And this is before the OGL debacle too.
Okay. So this is showing them like each week, like that's the first week, second week, third week. Okay,
right. So debuted at number 5. And this is a source book. Remember, or this is a supplement rather. This isn't the player's handbook. Like this isn't an essential thing. This is an optional supplement, and it still debuted at number 5. And then it went to 27 and 117. But the new player's handbook debuted, brand new player's handbook for the brand new version of Dungeons and Dragons debuted at number 57 and then dropped off to 124 and then dropped off the list. Yeah. So 2 weeks. The Dungeon Master's Guide, again, an essential source book that you need to play the game, number 95, and then it only lasted a week.
Yeah, I mean, number 95 is bad. It doesn't have as bad a drop off as like the other one did, but it's still that's not good.
Player's Handbook popped up again right before Christmas because a lot of people probably bought it as a Christmas present, and then the Monsters Manual, 85. So I mean, this gives us a better view of where things are at. And look, there are numerous reasons. Yeah, the DEI stuff absolutely chased a lot of people off. It did. But I think the OGL debacle was probably the single biggest fuck up that WotC ever in their entire history.
That was just a start. Then we had the Pinkertons.
We had the Pinkertons going to a guy's house. We had
They're trying to actively piss people off.
So yeah, Mearls goes on to say, good question. It hit number 1 on Amazon per an article on ICV2, and it was on the New York Times Games and Hobby list for about a year after release. So that would be the 5th edition Player's Handbook.
That's on top of his, because he only cares about his. Yeah.
Yes. List archives don't go back that far, but I dug up a few news stories about it. Yeah, so he's got his. Yeah, there we go. What about 5E's numbers in 2014? Yeah, so 5E came out. And it was just kind of the perfect storm. It was like 5E and Critical Role, and we had a lot of interest in the game. So yeah, it was like that was the version most, I guess, of the Tumblr generation of D&D players bought. And again, no offense to Mike Mearls, no offense to people if they like 5E. It's not really my thing, but it was popular. It was very popular. And what's going on though is a lot of people are like, why do I have to buy a new edition? I've spent the last 10 years buying a whole bunch of stuff from you guys, and then you're like, oh yeah, well that just toss that. I guess it's not completely incompatible, but they want you to buy new books.
But they're not going to buy, because if you have stuff that was perfectly fine, it's working very well, and it has things that you like in it that aren't like extreme changes, I would go even before the 5.1 in 2020. People are probably just going to stick with what they like. They're not going to go buy every time there's a new book. Some might, but a lot of people aren't.
Yeah, and a lot of people are still playing older versions. A lot of people are playing OSR. I mean, honestly, if I had, if I had a choice of any version of Dungeons and Dragons, I would probably just stick with 2nd edition because that was my favorite, and just be like, yeah, that's what we're playing, 2nd edition, guys. Everybody's playing 2nd edition because that's what I like. This guy here, Johnny Omaha, says, I love your product breakdowns, Mike. Love all the interviews you're doing on my favorite podcast. Thoughts on the product classification and market niche for Player's Handbook versus the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual combo. I feel like the Player's Handbook will always ratio the Dungeon Master Guide and the Monster Manual. That's true, because only Dungeon Masters are buying the Dungeon Master Guide and the Monster Manual. But it's still an essential book. This person says, cut the garbage from D&D and maybe those sales go up.
I agree.
This person says, Tasha's and Player's Handbook are both player-facing. Dungeon Master and Monster Manual are both DM-facing. There's not really a reason to buy either one unless you plan on being the one running the games. Yeah, I was always the guy that bought the books, and I had a lot of, you can vouch. We first got married, I had a lot of books, and they went for a lot of money too.
They did.
Yeah, they did. They were in
I feel
great
bad.
shape.
I didn't make him sell them. Don't worry, it wasn't me.
No. I sold a bunch of, we first got married. I had a bunch of my childhood and teenage years stuff shipped in from California. And we sold a bunch of toys, sold a bunch of D&D books. And I wasn't playing at the time. And part of me wishes I would have kept them because I had some, I had some like, I had gray, like first Greyhawks that was pristine. Yeah. But I said it doesn't look good. Including D&D Beyond sales, including digital. Even if I'm not living in the US, I'm pretty sure the channels for purchases has changed a lot since Tasha's. Yeah, they're trying to push everybody to digital.
Well, that's what they said that their goal is to go more digital.
Sold my 5.5 stuff on eBay. I just don't dig it. And that's coming up a lot too. Like we're seeing, and I talked about this.
Seagull, stop it now. Sorry, that's what that.
Oh, is that the
Benny Frida?
That was
had a child. Sorry.
You're gonna get us a copyright strike. But like a lot of D&D channels now are noping out.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, talking to myself.
It's like I can tell you're really enthusiastic about this video.
I'm more interested in Seagull stopping now. But go ahead.
Logs having children.
Had a child. Anyway, sorry. And they made it into books. There you go. They made it into D&D books.
With who? Was it the orc? Did the orc impregnate that log?
Well, you know what? It coulda. I don't know what they're using logs for in that day and age. But you have to be careful what those orcs look like.
But it burns. Yeah, you gotta make sure they're not racist, right?
But they have their shots and lots of penicillin.
Oh my God. So yeah, look, D&D channels are falling off. A lot of people noping out. A lot of people are still playing. That's the thing. The tabletop scene in general seems to be pretty healthy. It's just a lot of people are sticking with the older books. And they're also going to other systems, Pathfinder, OSR, or whatever. But it doesn't look like the win. Like they're trying to spin this like it's the fastest selling book ever. I'm like, is it? Because I'm not really seeing it, right? And a lot of people don't like it. They just don't like it. They don't see the point.
Just because you say it doesn't make it true.
That's Hasbro. That's the thing. You can't trust a damn thing Hasbro says because they're all about spin now. That's Hasbro. They're very corporate.
Maybe it identifies as a bestseller.
It does. There you go. It identifies as a bestseller, but those numbers aren't looking too great. So we're going to wrap this up.
Yep.
Let's wrap this up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.